Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. All motorcycle manufacturers borrow ideas from one another to some extent, but typically this happens within a class of motorcycles rather than an outright copying of style and design. One manufacturer will introduce a new concept like an adventure bike, and before long, all its competitors follow suit. The Chinese, however, take copywriting to another level. When they see something they like, they replicate it entirely, often hilariously missing key elements like performance while butchering the style. Well, here I will expose the worst offenders from the land that copyright forgot. Now, before I get into things any further, if you've enjoyed this video so far, could you take a second and like the video and subscribe to the channel? Over 98% of viewers watch these videos without subscribing, but it's a huge help to me in growing my channel. Thanks, and let's get back to it. Kicking off the list, we've got the Moxio MX650. As barefaced copies go, you can't get much more blatant. And Moxio seems to have no intention to stop ripping off Ducati's designs. Now this thing is desperately trying to be a Ducati Panigale V4, or maybe the V4S, but let's be honest, it's not fooling anyone. Sure, it's red, it's got white lettering, and there's some black plastic that's attempting to be a wing. It features a horizontally mounted rear shock, reminiscent of the older V-twin Panigale, rather than accurately mirroring the vertically mounted setup of the current Panigale V4. Beneath the bodywork, it houses a 650cc parallel twin engine produced by Moxio, which appears to be heavily inspired by the Kawasaki ER6N motor, given its identical 83mm bore and 60mm stroke. This replaces the previous model's 471cc twin, which bore a strong resemblance to the Honda CB500 engine. In terms of performance, the MX650 produces 60 horsepower, nowhere near the 211 horsepower of the genuine Ducati. It also weighs in at 489 pounds, roughly 50 pounds heavier than the real thing. And its top speed of just 74 miles an hour is downright underwhelming. Visually, the design clearly takes cues from Ducati, with proportions and styling that could mislead someone at a glance. It sports oversized winglets on the fairing, deeply recessed headlights, and a single-sided swing arm. All elements make it look the part, until you take a closer look. At first glance, the Haiying R6 appears to be a convincing tribute to the original, and with the right Yamaha-inspired paint scheme, it could easily pass for the real thing from a distance. However, the truth lies beneath the surface. Instead of a high-revving 600cc engine, this imitation is powered by a 500cc twin-cylinder motor producing just 37 horsepower. A far cry from the original R6's 118 horsepower. Alright, number 3 on the list. It's another Ducati wannabe. This time it's the rather excitingly named Wanjon WJ300 Space Ranger. Yep, somebody's definitely been watching a bit too much Toy Story. While the original Ducati Street Fighter was a masterclass in minimalist design, combining the raw power of a 900cc V-twin with razor-sharp handling fit for a MotoGP rider, the WJ300 is an entirely different story. It looks like it would struggle to get out of its own way, and its trellis frame appears more suited for reinforcing an offshore oil rig than supporting a high-performance motorcycle. As for handling, let's just say it's best not to ask. Okay, number 4, and it's another Moxio. This time it's the RR500. You can really tell they went all out on this one because, just like a proper superbike, they've slapped the exhaust right out of the side of the fairing. And of course, we've got the classic red fairing with white writing. But here's the big question, how much power does it have? Well, unfortunately, it's got the same 500cc engine as the other Moxio, and since we know the 650 puts out 66 horsepower, I'm guessing this thing makes, what, 50? Yep, so that's about 4 times less than the bike it's pretending to be. But hey, to be fair, the price is probably 4 times less too, so I guess that makes it okay? Okay, number 5, the Moto S450RR. The Moto S450RR is a near carbon copy of the BMW S1000RR, mimicking everything from its overall design and color scheme to the headlight shape and even the placement of the logo. The massive RR decals on the bodywork only add to the illusion. Beyond just looks, it borrows key features as well, like a full-color TFT display, clip-on handlebars, a step seat, a side-mounted exhaust, and an inverted front fork, all making it clear that this bike was built to be a clone. But that's where the similarities end. Underneath, it's an entirely different machine. Instead of BMW's high-performance 999cc inline-4 with shift cam technology, this replica runs on a 450cc parallel twin that produces a modest 24 horsepower at 6,500 RPM and 22 Newton meters of torque at 7,000 RPM. nowhere near the real deal's 207 horsepower and 113 Newton meters. Number 6, and this time we've got a Royal Enfield imposter, the Hanway G30. This bike is powered by a 250cc liquid-cooled single-cylinder engine, delivering a claimed 25 brake horsepower and 16 pound-foot of torque. Beyond that, it closely mirrors the Royal Enfield Himalayan. Same 800mm seat height, nearly identical 1400mm wheelbase, and a wet weight that should be almost the same once fully fueled. However, a few details set the Hanway apart. One is its TFT display, though even that appears far from original. A closer look reveals that the design, layout, and font bear a striking resemblance to those on KTM's smaller Adventure and Duke models. The swing arm design, with its crisscross bracing, also seems to take cues from KTM. The more you examine this bike, the more familiar design elements start to emerge. Number 7, and we have a surprising new entry to the motorcycle industry. The Great Wall Suo S2000 is the first motorcycle from China's Great Wall Motor, a company best known for its car brands like Ora, Hui, and Haval. Notably, Great Wall also partners with BMW to produce the latest electric Mini Cooper. They have been making budget-friendly cars in the UK for a while now and have decided to jump into the motorcycle game. Designed to rival the Honda Goldwing, the S2000 comes in 2 versions. The S2000 ST, with side cases, and the fully loaded S2000 GL, which includes a top case and plush pillion seating. Now, here's where things get wild. The motorcycle has an 8-cylinder engine. Yep, you heard that right, 8 cylinders. That's 2 more than the Honda Goldwing. And honestly, it's immense. Just look at it. Now, personally, it's not really my style, but I can't deny that it's pretty impressive. They've even slapped some Brembo brakes on it, which, let's be real, you're absolutely going to need when you're hauling around more than 400 kilos of motorcycle. And if that wasn't enough, it's got massive amounts of storage. Apparently, the side boxes hold 8 liters each. I mean, at this rate, you could probably pack up your entire house and take it with you. Alright, on to number 8, and this time we've got the Johnway YY 400-5. And just one look at it tells you exactly what they're going for. It's desperately trying to be a Harley Fat Bob. When you think about American-style cruisers, the first brand that comes to mind for most people is Harley-Davidson, or maybe Indian motorcycles with their Scout lineup, but very few will think about Johnway. Now, under the tank, you've got a 398cc V-twin, which sounds promising until you realize it's only pushing out 32 horsepower. But hey, at under 5,000, it's not exactly breaking the bank, so maybe that makes up for it? That being said, they've definitely attacked the front end of a Harley, then seemingly taken some blurry photos of the headlights and said, yeah, close enough. I mean, sure, you could argue that it looks alright, but let's be honest, do you really see any Harley rider trading their Fat Bob for a Johnway? Yeah, me neither. Alright, here we go, number 9, and yep, you guessed it, another Moxio. This time it's the MX500 Adventure, and it's trying so hard to be a BMW R1250 or maybe even an R1200 GS Adventure. The MX500 7D sports bodywork that closely resembles the R1250 GS, complete with the iconic asymmetrical headlight and body panels that look like they could use some fine-tuning. Those uneven panel gaps are hard to ignore. Thankfully, it doesn't attempt to replicate BMW's telelever front end, opting instead for a conventional telescopic inverted front fork, which might struggle with fork seals after a single wheelie, if it can even manage one. Powering the bike is a 471cc 180-degree parallel twin engine that's essentially a reverse-engineered Honda CB500 engine. With 45 horsepower, don't expect earth-shattering acceleration, especially considering the bike weighs in at 217 kilograms dry. In the end, the Moxio MX500 7D probably won't make its way to other markets, even in a rebadged or slightly redesigned form. It can comfortably join the ranks of the Moto S450RR and Shengshi GK350 in the Big Bike Rejects Club. Alright, let's move on quickly to number 10 because, well, this one is a bit of a mess. Say hello to the Daewoo G302, a bike that apparently thinks it can rival the Kawasaki Z1000. Spoiler alert, it can't. To me, it looks like they took the front end of a Z1000 and the back end of a Z650. So either someone made a serious mistake, or they just thought, yeah, I'll take the front end of that, the back of that, slap them together like some kind of Kawasaki cut and shut, and call it a day. Not saying this bike is actually a cut and shut, but it's likely they folded a piece of paper in half, photocopied the front of a Z1000, then folded another sheet, copied the back half of a Z650, stuck them together and went, yup, nailed it. Alright, sticking with the Kawasaki Z1000 wannabe theme for number 11, we've got the Jeju 400. And to be fair, this one does look a bit more like a Z1000 if you squint hard in low light. But here's where it falls apart. It's got a 400cc engine, which sounds promising until you realize it's only making 20 horsepower. How are they managing to squeeze so little power out of a modern 400cc engine? I genuinely don't get it. My 1991 Kawasaki ZXR 400 makes 62 horsepower. Nothing like copying a sports bike and then equipping it with absolutely none of what makes the original so special, namely performance. The Kawasaki Z1000 is a naked sports bike with around 140 horsepower and 80 foot-pounds of torque from its 1043cc inline 4-cylinder engine. Alright, number 12 on the list, and this time it's the Lifon Hunter 125. Now, take a good look. Can you tell what this is trying to be? When Lifon launched the Hunter 125, it was clear that the Ducati Scrambler had a strong influence on this design. With its iconic tank shape, flowing bench seat, and rear fender, the Hunter 125 captures the Scrambler's silhouette in a more compact form. The trellis frame, round headlight, and instrument cluster further echo the neo-retro style of the original. Details like the license plate hanger, tire tread, indicators, and USD fork are all reminiscent of the Scrambler's features. However, unlike Ducati's popular model, the Hunter 125 is powered by an air-cooled 125 single-cylinder engine with fuel injection and a 1-into-2 exhaust. The smaller front end, rear shock, spring arm, and 14-inch wheels are all scaled to suit the 125cc format, while still maintaining the Scrambler's distinctive proportions. Lifon introduced the Hunter 125 in Thailand in 2017, tapping into the growing small bike market in the country. Alright, number 13. The Feiken TT250 is another Chinese neo-retro motorcycle that looks eerily similar to the Huskies. Husqvarna's have a rather unique fuel tank design that sets them apart from the rest of the competition, and FK Motors didn't even bother to fiddle around with it, not one bit. The Feiken TT250 features some unique touches, such as gold-finished USD forks, a golden engine casing, a single-sided swing arm, and an underbelly exhaust, among other elements. Up front, it sports a circular, full LED headlamp setup. While it may appear to be inspired by the Vitpullen 250, it differs in its wide handlebars. The seat, with its scooped-up design, also sets it apart from the Huskies. Underneath it all, you get a 250cc engine making 28 horsepower, which, let's be real, isn't great. But hey, it's still better than the abysmal 20 horsepower 400 from earlier, so at least they're trying. Alright, number 14, and yep, we're back with Johnway again. This time it's the Johnway YY400-9, which is slightly bigger than the last Johnway we saw, but with the same engine. So yeah, it's probably even slower. And what's it trying to be? Well, looks like they had their sights set on the Indian Roadmaster. Now, the actual Roadmaster is a massive bike with a massive engine, plenty of power, and all the comfort you'd expect from a proper touring machine. This, well, it's rocking that same 400cc V-twin with 32 horsepower, and apparently they also make a 250cc version, which, if the math checks out, probably has about 18 horsepower. Thrilling. Alright, number 15, and yep, you guessed it, another Johnway. Do they have any original designs? Doesn't look like it. This time it's the Y400S bobber, and it's clearly trying to be an Indian Scout bobber. To be fair, it looks pretty decent, but once again, it's got that same 32 horsepower V-twin engine, and at this point I genuinely have no idea what Johnway is thinking. I mean, maybe in China they don't need to go fast, lots of traffic, lots of congestion, so they just want a bike that looks the part, even if it's not packing much under the tank. Alright, here we go. Number 16, the Motrac Unicorn 800. Fans of the legendary MV Agusta will be quick to point out that this Motrac Unicorn 800 looks a bit too much like their beloved Super Veloce 800. Now, MV Agusta is all about performance and beauty, with the company's tagline, motorcycle art, ringing true in the essence of all its motorcycles. Countless hours of meticulous design and cutting-edge engineering go into the development of its bikes. As is the case with many works of art, however, there tend to be replicas. For starters, the bike seems to have a rather long wheelbase, almost as if the designers weren't sure if they were going to build a sport bike or a cruiser. If you take a closer look at the ergonomics, you'll notice that the foot pegs are way too forward set for a decent sport bike, and the front end rake seems just a tad too slack. The very basic swing arm and the dual rear shock absorbers are also reminiscent of what you'd find on cheap, budget-focused cruisers. So that's the list. 16 shameless ripoffs. Some laughably bad, some less bad. Let me know in the comments which ones you would actually consider and which ones belong straight in the bin. I'll be back next time with more two-wheeled madness, so don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. And of course, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out. Until next time, ride safe, ride fast, and keep chasing the horizon. See you in the next video.